We also thank you for our company, Custodian, for the great thing that you are doing in the company. Thank you for the empowerment of the management and the board to continue to take the company to higher heights. We return praises, glory, and adoration to your holy name. Accept our thanks in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Oh Lord, we invite you to chairman this meeting. Oh Lord, direct our affairs. Let this meeting be peaceful, and at the end of the day, let us have cause to give all glory, praises, and adoration to your holy name. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we pray. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Akinlade. Good morning, esteemed shareholders, proxies, representatives of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Corporate Affairs Commission, our registrars, auditors, observers, those watching the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to the 27th Annual General Meeting of Custodian Investment Plc for the transaction of the business listed in the Notice of Meeting. The register of shareholders of the company and the register of directors' attendance at meetings are available for inspection in compliance with Section 112, subsection 1, and 318, subsection 5 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, respectively. Before passing to the more formal matters on the agenda, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce those on the table with me this afternoon, in line with the approval received from the Commission to convene the meeting with attendance by proxy, and having received the authorization of the other directors who are not here to represent them at this meeting are on my right, Mr. Wole Oshin, the Managing Director. On my left, Mr. Adeyinka Jafojo, representing the Company Secretary, Custodian Trustees Limited. I am Dr. Omobola Johnson, representing Meristem Registrars and Probate Services Limited. The registrars is Mrs. Mubo Olashoko. Representing the Nigerian Exchange Group is Mr. Chidi Okoronkwo, who is joining us virtually. Representing the Securities and Exchange Commission is Mr. Adewonyi Adeyemi. Representing the external auditors, Deloitte & Touche, is Mr. Joshua Uju. Representing the Audit Committee is the Chairman of the Audit Committee, Mr. Olani Dada. The registrars have informed me that the total number of issued shares of 5,881,866,000, they received proxies of 2,297,297,748 shares, representing 47.25% of shareholders. And I have been informed by the Company Secretary that we have the required quorum. I hereby declare this meeting open. I now call on the Company Secretary to read the notice of the meeting.
Thank you. Good morning, shareholders, distinguished shareholders. Notice is hereby given that the 27th Annual General Meeting of Custodian Investment Plc will hold at the Civic Center, Ozumba Umbandwe Avenue, Victoria Island, Lagos, on April 8, 2022 at 10 a.m. to transact the following business. Ordinary business: to lay before the members the audited financial statement for the year ended December 31, 2021, and the report of directors, auditor's report, and the audit committee report thereon. To declare a dividend. 3, to re-elect the following directors retiring by rotation. 1, Dr. Mrs. Omobola Johnson. 2, Mr. Richard Asabia. To approve the appointment of Mr. Adini Ifalade and Mrs. Margaret Giwa as directors of the company. 5, to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors for the 2022 financial year. To elect members of the Statutory Audit Committee in accordance with Section 4046 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. 7, to disclose the remuneration of managers in the employment of the company. Special business. to fix the remuneration of directors. To consider and, if thought fit, pass the following as ordinary resolution. 9. To authorize directors to raise additional capital via the issuance of debt instruments, preference shares, or ordinary shares, or a combination of any of these options, whether by way of private placements, rights issue, offer for subscription, or any staff share scheme, at a quantum and price upon such terms and conditions as determined by the directors and subject to requisite regulatory approvals, be and hereby confirmed and confirmed. 10. To consider and, if thought fit, pass the following as special resolution. That pursuant to Article 43C and 44 of the Companies Memorandum and Articles of Association, the directors be and are hereby authorized to take steps to comply with Section 124 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 and Regulation 13 of the Companies Regulations 2021, as it relates to unissued shares currently standing to the capital of the company, including but not limited to the cancellation of such unissued shares to the extent required to meet the company's capital raising objectives contemplated in paragraph 9 above. That the company's memorandum and articles of association should reflect the changes authorized by the foregoing resolutions. To authorize and empower the directors in the name and on behalf of the company to take or cause to be taken all actions required to effect the reduction, including without limitation, to the preparation, execution, and filing of all necessary notifications, forms, and agreements with and as required by the Corporate Affairs Commission and all other relevant regulatory authorities. Notes: compliance with COVID-19 health protection regulations 2021 and other related directives, guidelines on COVID-19. In line with the guidelines of the Corporate Affairs Commission on the conduct of annual general meetings of public companies by proxies, and the need to comply with the directives and regulations of the Federal Government of Nigeria, Lagos State Government, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control on safety and health measures aimed at curbing COVID-19 pandemic and the social distancing protocols. The number of people to attend the AGM will be in line with approved guidelines and directives noted above. Proxy: a member entitled to attend and vote at the annual general meeting is entitled to appoint a proxy to attend and vote instead of him or her. A proxy need not be a member of the company. All instruments for the appointment of a proxy should be completed and deposited at the registrars, Meristem Registrars and Probate Services Limited, at 213 Abat Macaulay Way, Savo Yava, Lagos, or via info@meristemregistrars.com, not later than 48 hours before the time for holding the meeting. A blank proxy form is attached to the annual report and accounts and may also be downloaded from the company's website at www.custodianplc.com.ng. Attendance by proxy. In line with CAC's guideline, attendance and AGM shall be by proxy only. Shareholders are required to appoint a proxy of their choice from the list nominated below. 1. Dr. Mrs. Omobola Johnson. 2. Mr. Wole Oshin. 3. Mr. Deyinka Jafuju. 4. Mr. Matthew Akinlade. 5. Mr. Sonny Nwosu. 6. Mr. Nona Awu. 7. Mr. Adibayo Adeleke. Stamping of proxy forms. The company has made arrangements for the stamping of duly completed and signed proxy forms at its cost to be submitted to the company's registrars within the stipulated time. Dividend payment. If approved, dividend will be payable on April 8, 2022 at the rate of 40 kobo per every 50 kobo ordinary share to shareholders whose names appear in the register of members at the close of business on March 25, 2022, bringing the total dividend paid for 2021 financial year to 50 kobo, subject to deductions of the appropriate withholding tax. Shareholders who have completed the e-dividend mandate forms will receive a direct credit of the dividend into their accounts on the day of the annual general meeting, which is April 8, 2022. E-dividend mandate. Shareholders are kindly requested to update their records and advise Meristem Registrars and Probate Services Limited of their updated records and relevant bank accounts for the payment of their dividends. A detachable form in respect of the mandate for e-dividend payment is attached to the annual reports for convenience. The aforementioned form can also be downloaded from the company's website at www.custodianplc.com.ng or from Maritime Registrars Probate Services Limited website at www.maritimeregistrars.com. The duly completed forms should be returned to Maritime Registrars and Probate Services Limited at 213 Apat Macaulay Way, Yaba, Lagos, or via the company's website. Unclaimed dividend warrants and share certificates. Shareholders are hereby informed that the number of share certificates and dividend warrants which were returned to the registrars as unclaimed are still in the custody of the registrars. Any shareholder affected by this notice is advised to contact the company's registrars, Maritime Registrars and Probate Services Limited at 213 Abat Macaulay Way, Yaba, Lagos, or via the company's website, www.maritimeregistrars.com. Closure of register of members. Notice is hereby given that the register of members and transfer books of the company will be closed from Monday, March 28 to Friday, April 1, 2022, both days inclusive. Biographical details of directors for election and re-election. Biographical details of directors standing for election and re-election are provided in the annual report. Website. A copy of this notice and other information relating to the meeting can be found on the company's website, www.custodianplc.com.ng. Rights of shareholders to ask questions. Security holders have a right to ask questions not only at the meeting but also in writing prior to the meeting, and such questions must be submitted to the company at 16A Commercial Avenue, Sabo, Lagos, on or before April 6, 2022. Annual report published on the website. An electronic version of the annual report is available on the company's website, www.custodianplc.com.ng, and will be sent to our shareholders who have provided their email addresses to the registrars. Shareholders who are interested in receiving the soft copy of the 2021 annual report should request via info@maritimeregistrars.com. Online streaming of AGM. The AGM will be streamed live online. This will enable shareholders and other stakeholders who will not be attending physically to follow the proceedings. The link for the AGM online live streaming will be made available at the company's website, www.custodianplc.com.ng. Nomination to the Audit Committee, pursuant to Section 404, subsection 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Any member may nominate a shareholder as a member of the Audit Committee by giving notice in writing of such nomination. Such notice shall reach the Company Secretary at least 21 days before the annual general meeting. Section 404, subsection 5 of the CAMA has mandated that all members must be financially literate, and at least one member shall be a member of a professional accounting body in Nigeria established by the Act of the National Assembly. We therefore request that nominations be accompanied by a copy of the nominee's curriculum vitae. By the order of the board, Adeyinka Jafoju, on behalf of Custodian Trustees, Company Secretary, dated March 11, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Company Secretary. Before I continue, can I ask the organizers if they can switch off this particular air conditioner? Because I'm going to be like a block of ice by the time we're done. It's very cold up here. Thank you. Or to reduce the fan. I will be frozen by the time we're finished. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jafojo. In view of the escalating health concerns relating to the COVID-19 pandemic in the country, which made the federal government to give the directive to adopt social distancing measures, leading to state governments placing restrictions on public gatherings and the resolution of the Board of Custodian Investment Plc to comply, the Board had to obtain the approval of the Corporate Affairs Commission to hold the company's AGM with attendance by proxy. The meeting is currently being live streamed in order for our shareholders, observers, regulators, and other stakeholders who cannot be physically present to observe the proceedings. Copies of the company's financial statements as at December 31, 2021, together with the Director's report, has been circulated to shareholders. With your permission, I would like to take them as read in order to save time for other matters on the agenda. Thank you. Thank you. Auditor's report. In accordance with Section 404, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, I now call upon the representative of the external auditors to read the auditor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chair, sorry. The auditor's report is on page 70 of the annual reports and financial statements. Independent auditor's report to the shareholders of Custodian Investment PLC. We have audited the consolidated and separate financial statement of Custodian Investment PLC and its subsidiaries set out on pages 78 to 257, which comprise the consolidated and separate statements of financial position as at 31 December 2020 and the consolidated and separate statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, consolidated and separate statement of changes in equity, and relevant policy guidelines issued by the National Insurance Commission, the Pension Reform Act 2014, and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria Act 2011. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements section of our report. We are independent of the group and company in accordance with the requirements of the International Ethics Standard Boards for Accountants, International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, and other independence requirements applicable to performing audits of financial statements in Nigeria. We have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IESBA Code and other ethical responsibilities that are relevant to our audit of consolidated financial statements in Nigeria. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Under the key audit matters, we have included the valuation of insurance and investment contract liabilities. I'll go to page 77. Thank you, sir. Okay. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. In accordance with the Companies and Other Matters Act, we expressly state that we have obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. The group has kept proper books of accounts so far as appears from our examination of those books. The group and company's financial position and its statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of accounts and returns, signed for Deloitte & Touche, Chartered Accountants, Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ojo. I now call on the chairman of the audit committee, Mr. Olani Idada, to read the committee's report.
Thank you. The audit committee's report is on page 40. Report of the Statutory Audit Committee for the year ended December 31st, 2021. In accordance with the provisions of Section 404, subsection 4 of the Companies and Other Matters Act 2020, the members of the Audit Committee of Custodian Investment PLC hereby report as follows. We have exercised our statutory function under Section 404, subsection 4 of the Companies and Other Matters Act 2020 and acknowledge the cooperation of management and staff in the conduct of these responsibilities. We are of the opinion that the accounting and reporting policies of the group are in accordance with legal requirements and agree ethical practice, and that the scope and planning of both the external and internal audit for the year ended 31st December 2021 were satisfactory and reinforced the group's internal control systems. We have deliberated with the external auditors who have confirmed that necessary cooperation was received from management in the course of their statutory audit, and we are satisfied with management's response to the external auditor's recommendations on accounting and internal control matters, and with the effectiveness of the group's systems of accounting and internal controls. Chairman Audit Committee, 8th of March 2022. And the members of the Audit Committee were Group Captain Bola Shotibo, retired, Mrs. Titilayo Olu-Jobi, Mr. Ravi Sharma, Mr. Richard Asabia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dada.
Thank you.
I wish to seek your permission that the chairman's statement on pages 10 to 15 of the 2021 annual report and accounts to be taken as read in order to save time. Thank you. Pursuant to Section 248, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, I hereby declare that a poll will be taken on all resolutions for consideration at this meeting, except for the resolution of election of members of the Statutory Audit Committee, which shall be by show of hands. Since this is an AGM by proxy, when the votes of the proxy forms duly submitted have been collated by the registrars will share the result of each resolution. We now continue with item 1 on the agenda, which is to lay the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2021, the report of the Directors, Auditors report, and the Audit Committee report. I therefore, in accordance with the provision of Section 388, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, lay before the members the financial statements as required under Section 377, subsections 1 and 2 of the same Act for the year ended December 31, 2020. The Managing Director and myself will be pleased to answer questions which you may have on the report and accounts before we proceed to the next item of business. And as you ask your question, please let us have your name and then ask your question. We turn it to the floor, please. Thank you, Mr. Akinlade. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board members here present and those watching virtually, regulatory authorities, my colleague shareholders, good morning. My name is Matthew Akinlade, President of Noble Shareholders Solidarity Association. First and foremost, I want to congratulate the board and the management for very good performance, given the economic situation of this country and all the events of last year. The economy was not smiling at all. But despite that, revenue increased by about 40%. Interest income too increased by same percentage, which means those who are in charge of our investments, they have been doing great work and they understand what they are doing. I have reviewed some other companies similar to yours this year. Interest income, investment income dropped sharply, but you were able to keep it up, which is a good one. I congratulate you. Yes, our profit dropped by about 20% from 12.7 billion to 10 billion. It's still a good performance, and earnings per share dropped from 196 to 183. We are still able to pay a total, you are recommending a total dividend of 50 kobo for the year, which has included the 10 kobo interim. Last year we paid 55 kobo. It is true our profit dropped, but in terms of dividend, honestly, I thought worst case scenario, we will maintain what we paid last year. Because when it comes to dividend policy, we need a kind of consistency. It's not something that swings here and there. We want us to note this. There are a few things I noted in terms of our expenses. On page 180, note 35-2, claim-related expenses was up by about 41%, from 14.3 billion to 20 billion. What is the exceptional thing that happened that made this to be so? Looking at page 181, note 38, that's management expenses. Staff costs increased from 2.7 billion to 3.6 billion, despite the fact that number of employees dropped by 143. If you look at page 45, number employed from 632 dropped. It went up drastically, far above the inflationary rate. We need to understand this. And marketing and admin expenses too nearly doubled from 1.8 billion to 3.3 billion. That's on page 181. Another item I pick up there is the fees, levy, and assessment from 1 billion to 1.6 billion. That's again 54%. So we need to so. At the onset, I congratulated the company that the company is being well run. I look at 5-year summary on page 261. And when we look at any partial over the past 5 years, it's been on the rise, except for the year 2021 that dropped from 119 in 2020, they dropped slightly to 183 kobo this year. It's a good performance. And even when I look at the equity, it has been on steady increase, probably by plowing back profit into it. I congratulate the company for this, and even the 1 billion in 2021. So these are signs of a well-managed business, and I think we should keep it up. So when it comes to the issue of cash, on the agenda for this meeting, item 9, you are proposing a capital raise, and you are asking us to approve it. But somehow, we didn't mention what amount are we going to raise that you have in mind, and for what purpose. This is very good. It's very good to do so. And before we we take a resolution on that, we will require some explanation, the quantum of the money you are looking for, and the purpose. Another area that we need to throw some light is on page 185, note 44, directors' emoluments. And I saw total from 5.1 million, it went up to 98 million. That is a 3% increase. You see it's that the number of directors have increased, or whatever the changes may be, we need to understand it. And so also the chairman's remuneration from 6.6 million, we stated 15.6 million there. That's 136% increase. We need to understand it. On page 187, note 46, fines and penalty. It is very good that it dropped sharply from 12.5 million to 1.1 million. The improvement is very significant. But I'm just worried about the reason for that 1.1 million. We are talking of late submission by one of the subsidiaries. I think they have to be up and doing. And they have to be compliant. If you know this is the day to submit our report, we should do it timely, please. Now, in terms of governance, on page 52, I look at board meeting attendance. It's very, very good. Because those that miss meeting, probably they have not been appointed by the time they held the meeting, or they have resigned before that time. So I commend the board for that. And I look at page 53 also. I look at the board audit committee, audit, compliance and risk management committee meeting. There's a particular director there. Out of 4 meetings, he attended only 2. He missed 2 consecutive meetings, 2 consecutive quarterly meetings. I think the director is denying the board the benefit of his contribution, and I think there should be improvement. And if you have directors that do not have time, we better put some other directors that will be able to make effective contribution to the committees. Apart from that, even all the committees, I was impressed by the attendance of the board members. Board evaluation report. I went through the evaluation report, and looking at the composition, there's a good gender balancing. 3 female, 4 males, which is very good. It means you are gender sensitive. Now, CAMA 2020, when it comes to independent directors, I think CAMA 2020 encourage us to have 3 independent directors. I could see that we only have 2. So we need to look at this going forward. On page 63, I look at the internal control. It was stated there that independent consultants review internal control function. And they said the report is as follows, but there was no report. I'm happy an outside consultant reviewed it. But on that page 3, we concluded that the report follows, but there was no report of the independent consultant. Lastly, on page 66, whistle-blowing procedure. I just want to know whether this whistle-blowing policy that you have is being administered internally or by external consultants. Because if it's being managed internally, it will not encourage stakeholders, especially staff, the freedom to speak out without fear or victimization. Thank you very much. Once again, I congratulate the board and management for a successful year, and I pray our company will continue to grow bigger and bigger. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Akinlade. Yes, please. The gentleman in the suit.
The Chairman, Custodian Investment Plc, the Managing Director, the Company Secretary, the regulators are present, distinguished fellow shareholders, both physically present and those who are joining us via the live streaming. Good morning. I am Adebayo Adetunji Adeleke. I'm a member of Independent Shareholders Association of Nigeria. Chairman, I want to join my previous speaker to congratulate you and all the members of the board for a successful, a little bit turbulent 2021. The fact that we were able to navigate the troubled waters of 2021 and we are still alive today is enough to celebrate. And the fact that our business is still profitable, in fact, actually works stronger when you look at our balance sheet, shows that we still have hope of a better tomorrow. So I want to congratulate you. And on behalf of all shareholders, I'm also congratulating you because you have never failed us. Because at the end of the day, I was joking with the group managing director before we started the meeting. I said, we need to finish this meeting before 12 so that we can have alert, so that we can go and do the needful because lunch must be served. And definitely each time we are coming with the hope that Custodian Investment is going to perform. And if it does perform, we also have a very good sister, a very motherly sister here, who will ensure that that money takes a very fast train that cannot be derailed, and the money will land safely in the account of shareholders. So I want to thank you very much for the total sum dividend of 50 kobo. We have enjoyed the interim, and we are waiting eagerly for the final, which is payable today. On that note, I also want to link it with page 35, where we have the table of the dividend paid over the past 12 years. I want to say that if you look at it from the year 2008, we have never failed to pay interim dividend. It's becoming a culture now, but I can say without fear that Custodian pioneered the payment of interim dividend and has been ever consistent. And so we look forward to it. We know that we are doing something, and quite a lot of people are now joining us in making sure that they pay something to shareholders in the middle of the year. But be that as it may, Chairman, if you look at that table critically, we have paid out 20.7 billion naira as dividend. 20.7 billion naira. That is wonderful. that is indeed one of the best investments that anybody can make. And we're extremely proud to be shareholders of Custodian Investments. Mr. Chairman, something has been said about this, the presence of the directors at the board and the committees. I just want to also highlight a particular fact. I've said it before, maybe on the floor of this AGM, that presence is the first sign of commitment. If you are not present, how can you say you are committed? And given what we have here, the board will have scored 100% in terms of attendance, if not for the 2 sittings that were missed by a particular director. And we're especially concerned because these were eras where people could join meetings via online participation and what have you. So not to attend a meeting consecutively twice actually gives us some cause for concern. And so you scored 96 over 98. So you can imagine, you will have gone home with the trophy 100% if only some little adjustment has been made here and there. Mr. Chairman, from pages 18 to 22, we have director's profile. And I want to speak to the directors. We need to know when these directors join the board. That's our relationship with them. We appreciate the fact that they have gone to the best schools in the world and they are the best human beings in the world, but we want to know in what way do they relate with us as shareholders when we are providing this information for the investment public. So please, going forward, let's know when each of these directors join the board. And speaking in that light, Mr. Chairman, I want to welcome Mrs. Margaret Giwa to our board. I believe that she's going to add value if, in the opinion of the board, you have adjudged her to be somebody that could join the board of Custodian Investment PLC. And in the same vein, I want to also register our very sincere, very deep appreciation to Malam Ibrahim Diko for the time that he spent adding value to her business while he served on the board. Mr. Chairman, the next thing I want to say will also be linked to the directors. And that is the fact that when you look at page 9, you will see a table. And that table shows that our Commonwealth in Custodian Investment PLC is growing. We have successfully concluded the acquisition of UPDC, which is a PLC, and we have 51% majority control. That's on page 151. And on page 151, we have also registered and hope to commence 2 new businesses. Custodian Hotels and Apartments PLC Limited, as well as Custodian Asset Management. Now, as this Commonwealth is growing, Madam Chairman, we need to democratize the directorship. While we are complying with rules and regulations in terms of gender balance, we must also ensure some kind of diversity so that we can represent shareholders. So we believe that we have enough room, or we should create enough room, to accommodate even minority shareholders being represented, even if it is on the board of the subsidiary companies. So, Mr. Chairman, we will be looking forward to your answer and to a favorable response from the board going forward. On the financials, on page 24, we have growth. There's no doubt about it. But we were hit by a very high claim, over 20 billion naira. And that is not unexpected, because we are living in this same economy and in this country. We all knew what happened with the NSAS movement, and those claims actually hit our books in the year under review. And it's not peculiar to us either. It's for everybody who is within the insurance space. And so we are able, at the end of the day, to still manage a 9.9 billion naira profit for the group. And more importantly, we grew our assets by over 8 billion naira in one single year. And not only are we growing the assets, I'm particular about the fact that our cash and cash equivalents rose by 3.5 billion. And that gives us even more leverage to be able to do better investments as an investment company. On page 35, Chairman, the very table I earlier referred to, I want you to look at the bottom. In the bottom of that page, you will find out that we have 1 billion naira unclaimed dividend. 1 billion naira unclaimed dividend. We've said quite a lot about unclaimed dividend. But Yorubas have a say. They say, you know, for as long as the problem persists, we keep on looking for solution. Over this week, in the course of this week, the chairman, or what do you call this, the DG or SEC, was still talking about the humongous money in the unclaimed dividend account. This money is shareholders' money. This money is minority shareholders' money. The core investors will not leave their money for 10 minutes. But there are people who believed in you, Mr. Chairman, who believe in the promoters of this business. They believe in the Oshins of this world. And they have come to partner with you with their widow's might. There are quite a lot of things. Your life happens. But we must ensure that we reward their faithfulness and their commitment to this business. So I want to urge you that we do whatever we can to still reach out to minority shareholders so that we can deplete this figure. Let them get the benefit of their investment. Even if they are passed on, let's take part of the yield from this amount of money, advertise their names, publish. Somebody will know somebody who will know somebody and say, your dad or your mom or your uncle has this amount of money in Custodian. Please go there and check out what it takes. We don't want people to continue to harvest where they did not sow. The money does not belong to the federal government. And we don't want our money either being donated to Afghanistan. That is just the truth, Mr. Chairman. Especially when you have to borrow the money. And then you borrow and then you donate. I have a friend here whose name is called Nona Awo. And he's fond of saying that if you are an anemic patient, you don't donate blood. And I agree with him absolutely. You are one of the greatest debtors in this world, and you are still donating. For the future, I think something is wrong with that table on page 185, talking about highest paid director. I think we need to take a look at it. I've turned the table upside down, upside right. It's not making sense to me. I think something is wrong, please. On page 187, I also believe, and I align myself with the last speaker, that fine, both the previous year and the year under review, amounting to 13.5 million, was quite avoidable. And we should do everything possible to avoid it. So on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to you for the opportunity to represent other shareholders as a proxy at this AGM. And we are looking forward to a very bright, very prosperous 2022 financial year. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Adeleke. Mr. Awo, please.
The Chair, I know that in your active days, or rather in your more active days.
I'm still active, Mr. Awo. I'm still very active.
Yes, in your more active days, you will have been to that part of the country where they say the chair. So let me also, since you heard it before, let me also say same. And I'm particularly saying that because Chief Akinlade didn't realize that because the dividend this year is lower than last year, it's not been told that you have credit note for us already. He doesn't know. So let me thank you for that, and then I'm sure the partner they will be happier. The only thing I don't know is the difference that you have decided to add back to 2021 for it to be higher than what we got in 2022. So I'll leave you to answer that in the course of. Okay. But I'll be taking this short contribution from the cover by saying that, yes, I believe that there's also a new order, and that new order will also be affecting some of the things that we'll be expecting that you bring on the table. The year under review will have been better, I believe, if not for the issue of fair valuation. But even at that, I thought you should have paid not lower than what you paid last year. Because this itself has implication for your share price. If I'm going to calculate your performance, I'm going to look at the appreciation, and I'm also going to look at what the dividend yield is. And quite a number of Nigerian investors are not doing what we used to do yesterday. It is who pays me best. That's basically what finds the money. And it's something that we need to be constantly be reminded. So going forward, let it not have a situation where we are paying lower than we paid the previous year. Second has to do with the issue of the property component of our business. Looking at page 196 or 197, which is again extended on page 260 and 261. The reason I'm asking that is that part of the impairment may also be coming from that business as indicated on page 147. And then what we're going to do next with UPDC is also an area I will be expecting the board to talk about much more. Because if you look at page 196 and 197, and then you come to page 160, where it is expressly stated that what we are hoping to do with the hotel is an outright sale. Given the economy and given the challenges, even in that industry, what is likely to be our option B? Because anybody who is investing today is basically looking at, what is that they're likely to do tomorrow to make the fortune better. So it will be important that we speak around UPDC hotel, or what is now called festival hotel, so that we also have a better understanding of the issue that I was taking. But let me take a slightly different approach from the issue of capital raising. On page 4 and page 5, as well as page 303. In one breath, you want to raise capital. And interestingly, you said you are likely to include rights and offer for subscription, which is an IPO. But in the second breath, you're saying you want to cancel the gap between authorized and paid off. So if you're going to do a right issue, where is the shares that you then will be available to sell? Even if you want to do an IPO, where will the shares come from? Because if you ask me, having gone through the accounts and looking at what we have on page 151, I want to think that the approval that you want us to give today relates much more to you increasing the funding for the subsidiaries. I may be wrong, but that is my understanding, because if you've cancelled what is available for you to be able to offer, then I don't know what we're going to offer. It's like a young man who has given out his daughter, and then we will still say, stay in my house. But I'll be open to being educated as to what to do. Let me also say that I I am in total agreement with the presentation on the issue of the concentration risk that we begin to have in terms of both positioning and structure. And I raised this in the past, but I'll be hoping that this time that is coming from a third party, that it will be something that will be looked at and looked at very seriously. I also think that going forward and given the environment in which we are in, Madam Chair, don't let them leave all the work to you when it comes to talking about the business. If the CEO has run this business for 365 days, I'm told he hardly goes for maternity leave these days. So it's full-time. He should write a statement as to how he has managed, rather than push the responsibility to the chair. One of the things you probably will want to give in your response is to say, oh, if we have this textbook already, why are you making us add? But it's important that you do, because that itself is a different dimension to the understanding of the business that we're talking about. While thanking you for making me represent over 38,000 shareholders, I am not sure that you putting me in between the spirits. Here I have Gio. I didn't know Chief Akinlade can pray this well. I just told him that his secondary source of income maybe have to be preaching. But if you put me, then I don't know what I'm going to do. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Awo. We'll just take one more, and in the interest of time. Yes, the gentleman in the beige.
Thank you, Chairperson. Protocol duly observed. The name is Prince Dr. Anthony Omani Omojola, the current National Coordinator, Independent Shareholder Association of Nigeria. I congratulate the board and, of course, all stakeholders about this 27th AGM. Happened with mixed feelings because of the significant decrease in profit for the year. It was 21%. But we are happy for the dividend, as earlier alluded to by the earlier speakers. We want to advise the board that financial highlights should not be buried in the body of annual report, but within the first pages, the first 5 pages, and the font size of a consolidated separate statement of a financial position should be improved upon, as the current one, the lettering is too small. We have looked at the gross revenue, which increased significantly by 14.23%. And we did a further review, which revealed that 2 income segments of the company is responsible for this growth. That is income from investment measured at amortized costs and the interest on call and deposit, which increased by 13.87% at 10.19 billion in 2020, but now 11.6 billion in 2021. The other segment is operating and investment income, which increased by 14.28% at 64.88 billion in 2020, but now at 74.14 billion in 2021, and with significant increases recorded in all the income lines as disclosed on note 3 on page 179. We commend the management for this stellar performance and hope this will be sustained in the coming years. We want explanation on rental income that decreased marginally by 9.57 or 16.79 million to 158.75 million in 2021 from 175.4 million recorded in the previous year. We also require further explanation on sundry income for better understanding that increased extraordinarily by 963% or 398.83 million from 41.4 million in 2020 to 440.23 million in 2021, which is at 48% of all that operating income as disclosed on note 33 sub 2 on page 179. I would not want to repeat what the earlier speaker has said, so I've skipped some of the things I've written down. But on page 182, impairment allowance increased significantly by 401.57% or 1.02 billion to 763.36 million in 2021 from 253.13 million in the previous year. The same thing, finance costs increased by 88.7% or 239.84 million to 510 million in 2021 from 277. Someone has spoken about management expenses, and I won't like to repeat that, but we encourage management to constantly put in check all controllable costs to enhance profitability. Chairman, looking at your report, this one is well focused. The report is detailed and, of course, balanced, which is well appreciated. And, of course, the board members, they are very knowledgeable, experts in diverse fields, and relevant fields to the business. Attendance of board and subcommittees were good enough, and the company has performed. Performance is very encouraging. I wish to say that the board evaluation on page 58/59 was very neat, precise, and detailed by Society for Corporate Governance. This is welcome, but there's just one observation there. When they said that they are recommending best practice, there's no way an organization will perform 100%. We would have expected them to tell us a few areas where they have recommended for improvement. This will give us some confidence that they have actually done a thorough job, and that coming year there will be value addition. There's something I want to bring out on page 139. I saw 20,000 as cash in hand in the company, page 139. And I was wondering, it looks ridiculous. Is there no cash or petty cash position in our system? The whole company, we do know is at a particular point in time, but 20,000 for a company, for a whole company, it looks very small. Again, we look at page 259, value added. This actually gives us confidence that the company is doing well, and it's evidence of a good performance. We want to urge the company, the management and board, to keep it up, because this is very, very damning for the progress of the business we are doing. Yes. Page 182. Page 182. Impairments allowance. On the whole, the impairments allowance for the year under review is 763.382 million, as compared to 253.126 million the previous year. But specifically, the charge for the current year is 821.185, and this looks too high for us, and we will require some explanation. Why rounding up? I want to again congratulate the company. Nonawo has mentioned something about shares in issue. We have not worked on the difference between the authorized and issued. Maybe the issues, the new ones we want to do, will be accommodated and we still have excess. That's why there will be provision for cancellation. Otherwise, ordinarily, there should be a resolution here to increase the share capital. But as a profession in the investment world, the issue of the staff share scheme shouldn't have been an item within what you are issuing. It is when you do an issue that make provision for the staff share scheme, not a topic of its own. Thank you very much. God bless us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mojola. I will now hand, there have been a lot of questions asked, and I will also ask, yes, sir.
In page 185, my name is Peter Enyanuku. Looking the chairman fees is 15 million plus. The I pay directors too is the same amount, 15 million. Sorry,
yes, the observation has been made already. Thank you, sir. It's an error. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. So I'll hand over to the MD to answer those questions. And thank you very much for the questions. Very insightful and useful.
Good morning, shareholders. And thank you very much for the questions. Some of them overlap, so I may not answer them twice. So thank you, Mr. Akinlade, for the questions that you've asked. You've talked about, and I think Nona will also mention that consistency in the dividend payments. We'll try and work on that so that we are more predictable, if you want to put it that way. In terms of claims-related expenses, you have that you have the increase essentially because this is a consolidated account. So the various lines of our businesses deal with claims in different ways. Mainly that is from the annuities section of our business, which is the life insurance section. Payouts are considered to be claims, the structure that we have at the moment. So, as we pay out annuity, it is deemed to be claims in the accounting, and that's why you have such huge amount. As you also note, on the other side, there's been a huge increase in the income from annuity also. So that's what's responsible for that. The staff cost increase essentially has to do more with our integration with UPDC. The acquisition of UPDC, of course, bloated the staff cost, for the group during that period. The marketing and admin expenses, of course, again, cuts across board, and the expense increase is noted. Fees, levies, assessments, fees and levies assessment, of course. The regulator, we do pay them a certain amount of money on an annual basis, for depending on our revenue. The regulator goes away with 1%, at least NICOM, at least one of our regulators. So that's something that we need to look at. EPS over the past 5 years increased. Yes, we noted that. Thank you very much. And it dropped only in 2021. Increase in capital cash, quantum of money. Okay, so the use of the capital. I think that is what you actually said. Yes, what we intend to do is to be in a pole position, if you want to put it that way, to be able to, with taking this permission from you, we have some ideas, we have some things we want to do. I think Nona talked about even expansion around the subsidiaries, growth around acquisitions, and so on and so forth. So there are things we want to do. And it isn't when you want to do it that will now come and call an AGM. That opportunity may leave us. So we want to have taken permission from our shareholders to give us that permission to seek debts or any of the instruments that at the time, will be most appropriate for the actions that we want to take. Being an investment company, we are always searching out and looking out for opportunities. We don't want to be caught in a situation where we haven't maybe processed certain things, and we have to go through the long winding process of calling an extraordinary general meeting for permission. So that's why we have it there. But we are looking out continuously as an investment company for opportunities for our subsidiaries, for acquisitions, and so on and so forth. So it's an ongoing exercise. We talked about director and chairman's increase. I think there's an error there. She doesn't earn 72 million. I think Mr. Adeleke has already said it. He knows definitely she doesn't. So I think that that is something that would have to correct. Well, honestly, I mean, why not? Fines and penalties, we've noted the statement. CAMA 2023 independent directors will look into that. Whistleblowing essentially is structured around anonymity. So there's no way, whether internal or external, there's no way anybody knows who is sending anything. And it cuts across the entire system. So it's not localized. And it's sent to the website, where certain people have access to it. So it's generally anonymous anyway. I think the most important thing is the content of the message. That's what matters to us. What are they saying? Mr. Adeleke, you talked about okay. Yeah, you made statements about noting the tenure of directors. We've noted that. You talked about minority interest, which my friend has also spoken about, Nona spoke about. That is also noted. You talked about the claims, which I've explained. You talked about unclaimed dividend. We are on the same page with you. I can tell you that we'd rather give it back to the owners than the other way around. And I think the suggestions you've given are also things that would probably look into, discuss with registrars also. Talking about the highest paid director, we've noted that, and that is definitely not so. Nona will talk about fair valuation, and dividends should be, consistent. Same. So we've noted that. Impairment of UPDC, the UPDC sale of the hotel, and whether there's any option. The hotel has ongoing a farm. Well, maybe I shouldn't use the word farm, but if it's farm, I will say farm. Discussions are ongoing, which are very strong. And there's a plan B, I can assure you. So we're not going to sit down and get into any business structure and not have a strategy. So yes, we have something going that is good, and if it doesn't happen, we have plan B. So that plan is also in place. You talked about capital raising, so I think I've explained that to a large extent. You talked about the conflict, yes. So the reason why that, in fact, I was smiling when you mentioned it, because I'm sure internally also it was discussed. That wouldn't this look like you are raising here, you are cancelling there? It's because of what is in CAMA. We're not sure the direction. It's 2021. We don't know. So we are caught in the middle. So I think the GO actually understood what happened there. So we are caught in the middle as to, what if we don't raise the shares? The unissued shares, we'll have to cancel it. But at the same time, what if we're raising money? So we needed to put these two, the two there to be able to, but anybody looking at it, like you rightly said, looks like, you are increasing here, you are cancelling here. But it's because of that provision that we actually stated it that way. Yeah, you've spoken about the board representation and minority interest. So that is noted. MD statement is also noted. Incidentally, I used to write it about 10 years ago. Or, maybe earlier. But then, when I used to write it, nobody used to write it. Now I think it's getting... So we'll look at it again and come back to that. Prince, you spoke about the financial highlights and the pagination and the structure. We've noted that. You talked about a decrease in the rental income and sundry income decreased. The sundry income actually increased. No, it increased. It actually increased because I checked it when you were talking. It actually went up for 2021. The Society of Corporate Governance recommendation, I think that will also be something that the company secretary, I'm sure he's noted it. The cash, the float is the company. It's actually the company that is not the company is small. The company is where we reside. So we don't need cash in that sense. So to me, exactly. So that's what I think is responsible for that small quantum. So thank you very much. I think I have touched on most of the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, GMD. Yes, I think we've covered all the questions. So we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is dividends. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of dividends for the year ended December 31st, 2021, which will be taken as a final dividend at this meeting. A total dividend of 50 kobo, of which an interim dividend of 10 kobo has already been paid, and a final dividend of 40 kobo per share for the period ended December 31st, 2021 is now hereby proposed as a final dividend. I hereby move that a dividend of 40 kobo on every 50 kobo share is hereby declared payable out of the profit of the company for the year ended December 31st, 2021. The holders of shares whose names are in the register of members before its closure of March 25, 2022 will be entitled to the dividend. Any questions before we put this this motion to the meeting? None. We wish it can be decreased, but it cannot be increased. Will someone please second this motion? Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Adeleke. I now put the motion to the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd like to confirm the results of the poll on this resolution. We have a total of about 55% of those of the proxies. Sorry, we received a total of 309 proxies, which with a total shareholding of 3,228,926,565 units of shares, which represents 55% of the total issued share capital, and 100% of those proxies voted in favor of this resolution.
Thank you. I hereby declare by rotation. At this point, I will now delegate my duty as chairman to Mr. Wole Oshin, to conduct the next item on the agenda as I'm one of the directors retiring by rotation and offer myself for re-election.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to Article 106 of the Articles of Association of the Company, Dr. Mrs. Omobola Johnson and Mr. Richard Asabia shall retire from office by rotation regarding restrictions at public gatherings. Mr. Richard Asabia is not physically present, but is participating online. Reappointment of the directors by separate resolutions. I hereby move that Dr. Mrs. Omobola Johnson, a director retiring in accordance with the Articles of Association of the company, be and is hereby reappointed a director of the company. Would okay. No. To the meeting. Okay, I think you've asked the question. I now put the motion to the meeting.
Thank you very much, Acting Chairman. I confirm that 309 proxies voting on the re-election of Dr. Mrs. Omobola Johnson voted unanimously in favor of her re-election.
I hereby move that Mr. Richard Asabia, a director retiring by rotation in accordance with the Articles of Association of the company, be and is hereby reappointed a director of the company. Would someone please second the motion? Yes.
I, Matthew Akinlade, I second that motion. Thank you.
I confirm the re-election of Mr. Richard Asabia voted in favor 100%.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare that the motion has been carried.
Thank you, Mr. Oshin. I'm now back as your chairman. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the appointment of Mr. Adeni Ifalade Association of the company and Section 274, Subsection 1 and Subsection 2 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Ms. Adeni Ifalade was appointed to the board of directors during the year. I hereby move a motion that the appointment of Ms. Adeni Ifalade in accordance with the Articles of Association of the company and Section 274, Subsection 1 and Subsection 2 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act
I, Prince Dr. Anthony Moniyomojola, I second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mojola. Okay.
Sorry.
Register.
Yes,
Kindly announce the result.
Yeah, so I announce the result that 309 shareholders voting by proxies voted unanimously in favor.
So 100% for Mr. Falade. Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to Chief Mrs. Giwa. Pursuant to the Articles of Association of the company and Section 274, Subsection 1 and Subsection 2 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, Chief Mrs. Margaret Giwa was appointed by the Board of Directors during the year. Due to the guidelines regarding restrictions of public gatherings, appointment of Chief Mrs. Margaret Giwa in accordance with the Articles of Association of the company and Section 274, subsections 1 and 2 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 be and is hereby approved. Will someone please second the motion?
I second the motion.
I confirm the results of
I should put the motion to the meeting first. So I put the motion to the meeting.
So 309 shareholders voting by proxies voted unanimously in favor of the appointment of Mrs. Margaret Giwa as the Director of Custodian PLC.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare that the motion has been carried. The next item on the agenda is the authorization to fix the remuneration of the external auditors. To fix the remuneration of the external auditors. Will someone please second the motion? Yes, Mr. Awu.
Before I second, let me make an open confession. When the auditors came, he gave me a warm handshake, so I'm seconding the motion.
As long as it was only a handshake, Mr. Awu, it's okay.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. So we have all shareholders voting by proxies voting unanimously in favor of this resolution.
Thank you. I hereby declare that the motion has been carried. We have now come to the election of members to the Audit Committee in compliance with Section. The directors on their part nominated Mr. Richard Asabia and Mr. Ravi Sharma as their representatives on the Audit Committee. Nominations were received from the shareholders in respect of Mr. Olani Dada, Mrs. Titilayo Olujobi, and Group Captain Bola Shotubo. I hereby move that Mr. Olani Dada, Mrs. Titilayo Olujobi, and Group Captain Bola Shotubo, retired, I hereby representatives of the shareholders and those of the directors on the Audit Committee. I hereby declare that the following have been elected members of the Audit Committee for the year ending 2020. Mr. Olani Dada, Mrs. Titilayo Olujobi, Group Captain Bola Shotubo, Mr. Richard Asabia, Mr. Ravi Sharma. We have now come to agenda item 8. And Allied Matters Act 2020. Yes, Mr.
For completeness of record, we should indicate who nominated them.
Okay.
For the nomination of Mr. Oladipo Lambo, Group Captain Oladipo Lambo, Group Captain Oladipo Lambo, retired. Sorry. Yes. For that of Captain Bola Shotupo, retired, it was Mr. Adeniyi Tobalashe that nominated. That nominated him, and that of Mrs. Olujobi, it was Mr. Olushino Fashoro that nominated her.
Thank you. Thank you, Company Secretary.
There were no other nominations.
So I'll start again with the agenda item 8, and that is the disclosure of remuneration of managers in the employment of the company. I therefore, in accordance with the provision of Section 238 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, present for noting the remuneration of managers of Custodian Investment Plc as indicated on page 187 of the audited accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2021. Special business. The next item on the agenda is the passing of a special resolution to fix the remuneration of directors for the 2022 financial year. At this point, I will now delegate my remuneration.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I hereby move that the remuneration of the directors in the sum of 77,246,867 naira be approved. Will someone please second this motion? Thank you, sir.
I second that motion. Thank you.
I now put the motion to the meeting. Registrar.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd like to confirm that on this resolution, that 309 shareholders voting by proxies voted 100% in favor of the resolution as displayed on the board.
I hereby declare that the motion has been carried.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 9, which is to authorize the directors to raise additional capital for the company. Members may now consider, and if thought fit, pass the following ordinary resolution: to authorize directors to raise additional capital via the issuance of debt instruments, preference shares, or offer for subscription or any staff share scheme at a quantum and price, and upon such terms and conditions as are determined by the directors and subject to requisite regulatory approvals. Would someone please second this motion?
Thank you, Chairman. The name is, once again is Prince Dr. Anthony Omojola. I do second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omojola. I now put the motion to the meeting. Registrar, please announce the results.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I confirm the results of the votes on this resolution, which is 309 shareholders voting by proxies voted unanimously in favor of the resolution.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare that the motion has been carried. We now move on to the final item on the agenda, which is for the cancellation of unissued shares. Members may consider, and if thought fit, pass the following special resolution. 1. That pursuant to Articles 43C and 44 of the company's Memorandum and Articles of Association, the directors be and are hereby authorized to take steps to comply with Section 124 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 and Regulation 13 of the Companies Regulations 2021 as it relates to unissued shares currently standing to the capital of the company, including but not limited to the cancellation of such unissued shares to the extent required to meet the company's capital raising objective. Number 2, that the company's Memorandum and Articles of Association should be amended to reflect the changes authorized by the foregoing resolutions. And number 3, to authorize and empower the directors in the name and on behalf of the company to take or cause to be taken all actions required to effect the reduction, including without limitation to the preparation, execution and filing of all necessary notifications, forms and agreements with, and as required by the Corporate Affairs Commission and all other relevant regulatory authorities. Would someone please second this motion?
I second that motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayanu. I now put the motion to the meeting. Registrar, kindly announce the results.
Okay. The result on this resolution is that 309 shareholders voted 100% in favor of the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare that the motion has been carried. The shareholders, auditors, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this meeting, this annual general meeting, I would like to thank you all on behalf of the directors and management of the company for attending this meeting and showing interest in the company's affairs. We are very grateful to the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and the registrars for sending representatives to this meeting. I hereby declare the meeting closed. Thank you.